Greetings. Today's guest is a beautiful instrument from the 1950s. It's an Olds opera trumpet made in Fullerton, California in approximately 1957 or 1958. So this is a very early example of the first run of the Olds opera. And it's unique in that it's a large bore instrument, or extra large, depending on what your thinking is about bore sizes, 468 thousandths of an inch. This was known in Olds catalogs as model 012. And there were two iterations of this instrument. This is the Premier, Olds Opera Premier. The Premier is distinguished by the use of nickel. There's a lot of nickel on this trumpet. The bell is all nickel. You can see the engraving there, sort of. It's sharp, but it's just kind of hard to see. There's no lacquer left on this instrument at all. The lead pipe is also nickel. The outer slides are also nickel. Brass, you can see in the main tuning slide crook. Bottom part of the valve casings, other slide crooks as well, and the rest of it's all nickel. So pretty unusual for its time. They came with a first slide trigger, distinctive airplane strut bracing here, similar to Selmer Paris trumpets. 2 water keys, third slide ring. And this particular example was definitely played in its day. You can tell there's a fair amount of pitting on the valve casings. Of course, there's no lacquer left, as I mentioned. The valves have been rebuilt. There was not a lot of compression when I purchased this instrument, so I did have those rebuilt by Anderson Plating. You can see the kind of unusual valve design that Olds used with the spring on the outside of the valve, and these brass valve guides here also on the outside of the valve. Not many people are known to have played the Olds opera, but there is one person who has played his entire career on Olds opera trumpets. I had another Olds opera that was a little bit younger. I think it was from the late 60s or early 70s, which I reluctantly sold before I moved to Europe to this man. If you don't know Jack Walrath, you should check him out. He was in the last period of Mingus's activity before Mingus passed away in the late 70s. And has also released quite a number of solo albums. He's an incredibly creative improviser, composer, and arranger. And he's also published a great book. It's a very difficult book. It gives great insight to his way of improvising. Some of the studies sound like Jack Walrath solos. So I encourage you to check him out. He's an amazing trumpet player and a very nice man. How does it sound? Well, we did hear a sample during the intro music, but let's get down to the studio and listen a bit more closely. Besides this Premier model, which is basically almost totally made out of nickel silver, also there was another iteration of this called the Fanfare model, which was more like a conventional trumpet in that the bell was brass, the lead pipe was also brass, and let's see what Olds had to say at the time about these instruments.
The large bore Olds opera model represents the ultimate in symphonic tone. Count 50 measures rest, come in fortissimo on a high C, and do it with the confidence born of 100 such successful entrances under pressure. The instant response and powerful tone are products of Olds' engineering and design skills, producing a prestige trumpet for prestige players.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed getting to know this fairly obscure model of Olds trumpets. Seems like everyone knows about the recording model, the super recording, the super Olds, the Mendez model, but the Olds opera is not very common, and it's a very interesting instrument. It's quite unique in the line of Olds trumpets throughout the decades for the bore size, the first valve trigger, and on the Premier model at least, the extensive use of nickel silver. So, check out the link down below in the description. There's an interesting website that does have quite a bit of information about Olds trumpets. Hit like and subscribe and head over to Bandcamp and pick up some music. Okay, thanks for watching. Check out other videos in this playlist and take care. We'll see you next time.